Good day and welcome back to Elementary 72 Gaming. Now we're back with another Tower of God video, but this one isn't just any Tower of God video. This is part 1 of the Floor of Death, or the Hell Floor. Right now I'm calling it the Hell Floor because of what it is. But right now is the first time that we're actually going to see a lot of shows of how powerful irregulars are. So all the irregulars we have to take note of in this entire sector are Rachel, Bam, Gustang, Enryu, and Yurik Mazino. Now the reason why I'm listing these 5 is because all of them play a part and we can see that they are unique compared to others. Now on the Hell Train all this time, Rachel has been holding Wagnan and she's also been holding Miseng. So I'm just going to switch over to what's been going on with them. Now after the team was slain by Rachel and White, Wagnan has been the prisoner and he's really been wanting to kill Rachel badly. So Rachel ended up convincing him to save Miseng and Huriang by sending Casino back to Elma to give back the devil and to basically revive him. So we know that Hurang is going to be revived soon. So Casino has gone down to revive Hurang and he'll be back soon. So Miseng and Wagner decide they're going to follow up with helping Rachel. They'll help her onto the Floor of Death and sometime soon they're going to betray her and kill her because they really want vengeance for what she did. She killed Arc Raptor. So nonetheless, they follow and they pursuing after Rachel basically in this way. So Rachel has 3 people out to kill her. She has Wagnan, she has Novik, and she has Kun trying to kill her. So she's really made a lot of people angry with her. She's made tons of enemies. And basically she also convinces Wagnan because she knows a little bit about the princes of the Red Light District, the mistake that the 10 great families made. Now, something about Wagnan and the rest of the princes of the Red Light District that makes no sense is this is a mistake by the 10 great families. And the fact that they look very similar to Jahad could be just a coincidence, or it could be because they're literally Jahad's children, which we told that he can't have, but we never know because we haven't yet reached it. So nonetheless, this is something which she explores and she gets very close to teasing us with the truth. Then we also get teased with it when Karaka and Wagnan are talking before the Hidden Floor, which is after this. But nonetheless, all of that is all the teasing that we've gotten to his story. And we get a little bit more about it on the Hidden Floor, something crazy to know about all of this, and we'll only get there when the time is right. Okay, so let's move back. Let's pull this story back a little bit to getting to the Floor of Death. On the way to the Floor of Death, they pass by a station in the land of mushrooms on the 42nd floor. There is one floor before the Floor of Death, and here they end up finding Hockney. Now Hockney is one of the members who's going to join Bam's team in the future. He becomes a crucial member of Bam's team, chasing after Rachel to get back the part of his picture that's sitting in her lighthouse. Okay, next thing to note about this here, and I have already jumped to the picture ahead of it. The swordsman, Iwa, and Rak were caught in a fight between Yuri and Karaka. Now Karaka tried to stop Bam from getting on the train. He ended up fighting Yuri. Yuri ended up blasting him with an extraordinarily powerful Shinsu assault called the Rose Shower. We don't really have to go through that fight. It was quite pointless because nobody ended up really losing. It didn't have real consequence. It had 0 consequence. Nobody died whatsoever in that entire fight. Nobody achieved anything. It's just the delay in the fight. And it was a real nice fight, but that's just about it. It was a pointless fight. So Karaka doing what he did, he interfered with trying to stop Bam getting on the train. And Iwa, Rak, and the swordsman end up getting knocked out. Yurik Mazino ends up becoming their hero through his member of Wulayuk Song, who ends up picking up those 2 who ended up falling. That is Iwa and the swordsman. Now, we're getting into a little bit of Yuraha's story over here. Yuraha has a fragment of the mirror of data that exists on the hidden floor. And she has the small piece that was with her, and she broke it in two and gave part to the swordsman so that he'd always remember the story that she told him, and so that he would always help no matter what. So that's what the whole story is, and that's what's happening with the swordsman and Yura. That's how come he is following to help her. He wants to help her achieve her goal, and that's how come the sword is willing to allow him to ignite it, because he's following the duty that it gave him. And this is why he's been following her so heavily from that point, because he knows her entire goal on the floor of death. Now, moving on from here, a lot of things are going to happen that are crazy. They stop by several stations. Bam learns Shinsu black hole sphere on the train. Beta ends up joining Kun, and Kun ends up using Beta in his lighthouse to form one of the high rank techniques called Inner Core, which is a ranker level technique for lighthouse bearers. And this is the entire situation. So everybody's being trained like this here. They all manage to pass their tests. When they take on their tests, they're unbelievably powerful, and they're getting even more crazy powerful every time they're learning more techniques. Bam is just growing more and more crazy strong, and this is one of my favorite parts when we get to entering the floor of death. Now, I'm not going to go through what Yuraha and Rachel are doing, because I'll get into it on the floor nonetheless. So when it's time to leave the train, Yuraha with Wagnan, who is covered up totally, only showing his eyes, end up confronting Kun and Bam, and they make a deal to give them the information on where the thorn fragment on the floor of death is. Remember, this is important to stabilize Bam, because he could die if the thorn isn't stabilized correctly. It's kind of a unique situation, so they agreed to make this deal. So the first thing they give them is the information about Wagnan's team, saying that they're somewhere on the train and they're busy struggling to actually, catch everybody, and they were shocked when this whole story happened with Hurang, with Casino, to revive Hurang, that he betrayed Rachel. Now, immediately at this point, Kun starts putting things together, and he realizes something is way more wrong. This isn't like them, this isn't their code words, nothing is being used right, and everything is so weird it doesn't even make sense. So moving on from this point, we get a lot of crazy things that are about to go down. Immediately, Kun decides he's not going to honor that agreement that they made, because she's lying and she's holding out on the truth. She didn't speak the truth about what happened with Wagnan's team. At this point, Karaka ends up jumping out of the train and trying to take Bam with him. He grabs Yuraha, he grabs Wagnan, and he ends up running with that team into the floor of death. Now, when he tried to attack Bam countered with the Shinsu black hole sphere. And to the amazement of the rankers over there, that is Evan, who was watching this, Bam's attack dissolved Karaka's attack. Now, you can understand that this is quite spectacular, because a ranker is someone who climbed the tower. They've been through everything. Their power is ridiculous. To get to that point is unbelievably hard. Their lives are extra long. Their power is ridiculous in every sense of the word ridiculous. So they really worried about it at this point, and what happens next is basically they end up jumping into the floor of death. They throw Sachi in with a whole lot of jokes. I like to do that, and Harun ends up going on her own adventure. Bam ends up being led through the floor of death by a light. It pulls him into a different direction, knocking him out, and he ends up taking a different path into the floor of death compared to everybody else. At this point, we get a lot of things going on. A lot of things are about to go down that aren't supposed to have gone down on the floor of death arc. And what happens first and foremost is Bam and Hockney meet Hockney's friend from the floor, Mata. And Mata is the one who helped Hockney escape from the floor of death. It plays a role in the story. It is important. You need to know about it in order to know what's going on the floor of death. Now, from this section forward, things are going to get complicated again, because explaining things now is explaining multiple situations. We need to explain what's Rachel's objective, why she's getting so greedy, why she's after the power this time. So all that we do know all of a sudden is Rachel is after taking Bam's place as the child of the prophecy. So she must probably know something about the prophecy that nobody else knows, because she either has something that Aline had when she left the tower, or she was directly in contact with Aline before she entered the tower. And this is the first time that we get a lot of information on Rachel's part in the story. And this is a lot of backdrop for her. So all we know is that she talks like if she knew Aline personally, which is a very big problem for anybody who's following the story, because if she really knows Aline, then this isn't just as simple as she is jealous of Bam and she wants whatever Bam has. This is far more complex. And with all of that being the case, we end up pushing through with the rest of what's going on with everybody involved in this craziness, this madness. So beyond this, the next thing which happens is everybody is in the floor, everybody starts fighting and things start going crazy. And the clue that was given by Yuraha, which is an actual clue, is find the princess of the deep color sea. She will lead you to the 3 waterfalls where the thorn lies. And on this here, we start getting a whole lot of backstory about what happened to the Floor of Death. So let's get into it. This is like so complex, I'm not even sure if I can give it justice with what I'm about to explain. So on the Floor of Death, Henry Yu showed up about a couple thousand years in the tower's history ago, and he ended up having that fight with all the Rankers. I've even said it before in one of my past videos. He fought Rankers and he slayed them left, right, and center. And he used his red rain technique on them, and then the Guardian got involved and he killed the Guardian. Now, when he killed the Guardian, this floor lost its administrator for holding the floor of Shinsu correctly. All contracts are void on this floor, and all people who use Shinsuya are different from everybody else. They're not like everyone else in the tower. When you use it, you don't need the limitations of the administrator. There's no way that you can block a person from fighting here, and rankers and regulars can be involved in the same items on this floor. Administrators won't be involved to stop them. All of this is things which you learn that are in play here. So we know that this place is very dangerous for the regulars to be in. This isn't a place for them. The way that people fight and behavior is ridiculous. And it's also one of the best places for them to be, because if they learn to use Shinsu over here, they can learn techniques far beyond their limits. So they can be ready to ascend to higher levels if they fight in this place. Okay. Let's go. Alright, so Bam ends up going in with Mata and Hockney. I will get to Yuri on the other side, and I will get to Karaka on the other side after this. I'm going with Bam's story from start to end. So Bam ends up going with Hockney. They end up getting to the final gatekeeper, who figures out that Bam and Hockney are inside the parasite that he's riding, Many Legs, and they end up trying to get into the floor, and they're told that they have to surrender their souls. At this point, the Guardian tries to pull out Bam's soul, and when he does, he finds that Bam has more than one soul, and Bam says, "It's fine if you eat my soul, but can you leave the rest of them? I actually need to look after these souls." And to this here, this gatekeeper is like, "Wow, this is incredible, this is insane." So he ends up threatening them with his attack, the bamboo spears, and Bam ends up shattering it with a single hit with the Shinsu Black Hole Sphere, and it really says that this guy is way too dangerous to allow onto this floor. At this point, things don't go the way that everybody wants them to go, and the Guardian is like, "You cannot enter the floor, we will not allow you no matter what." And at this point, the princess of the Deep Color Sea, who is Garam Jahad, one of the princesses with 2 weapons who has gone missing, ends up intervening, telling the Guardian to let Bam and Hockney in with their souls. They are a special exception because of the fact that Bam is who he is. She ends up letting Bam in, and Bam comes into the next section of the flow of death, where they're now in the holes. The holes are blood vessels from the administrator that for some reason can still regulate Shinsu. So it allows people to use Shinsu on the floor by allowing the blood of the administrator to flow through it because it's Shinsu. And when they get inside, they end up seeing the flow of death. They end up meeting Garam, and Garam takes them up to Dija's castle. Now, the flow of death is ruled by two rankers. One side was ruled by Disha, and the other side was ruled by Dija. Now, Disha ends up being overthrown by someone called Heljo. Heljo is involved with something to do with Yurik Mazino. I'll get to that later. But nonetheless, he was dethroned and his city was taken over by Heljo, and that changed the whole hierarchy of their system. A lot of citizens of this flow of death want to leave. They want to leave this place and continue on wherever they want to go. But also, there are some citizens who refuse to allow anybody to leave, that being Dija and Disha, along with the Grand family, because that is the name of that family. Now, the first time we introduced to Novik, we introduced to him as Novik Grand. So it could be possible that this is the same family that Novik is part of, which is the same family that Yura and Jinsung Ha are part of. We're not 100% sure about it. This could be the same Grand family, it could be a different Grand family. But nonetheless, that's the whole story about these individuals. Okay, now let's get on to the next part of this craziness. So Dija and Disha are here in place because they were here when Enryu slayed the administrator. When they witnessed Enryu doing what he did, they both received powers from Enryu. Dija received the ability to see the future with his eyes, and on the floor he ended up giving his eyes to another soul who was injured badly by Heljo, and he was given the objective of bringing the savior to the floor. So that is what Hockney's objective is when he was released from the floor of death, or the hell floor. And that is why Hockney was off the hell floor, even though nobody who lives on the hell floor can leave. Now, that is part of the story with Heljo and Karaka. I'll get into that when I get into the second part of the video. So nonetheless, Princess Garam Jahad ends up talking to Bam, and she ends up telling him about the journey of Aline. Explains about the climb up the tower, what happened, how Jahad brutally killed Bam in front of Aline, and that's what drove Aline nuts, and she tried to kill herself multiple times, but somehow V managed to kill himself because he hadn't made a contract for immortality. I don't understand it because it makes no sense that they were all companions that didn't get the same lot in that wish. But nonetheless, they continued their struggle. She continued her struggle to find a way out of the tower, and she writes in her journal about when she finds a way out of the tower, and that's that. Now, there's a whole lot more to the story. Garam only gave this information to Bam, saying that we're going to be back to the floor of death. We have to come back to the floor of death because there's several key elements on the floor of death that are still unresolved. They all revolve around Bam. There's the 13-month weapons with Garam Jahad, which we know Bam is eventually going to have to collect. We know that there's also the whole issue with the Thorn and Enryu, so we suspect that he might come back to this floor at one point or the other. Maybe with Enryu, maybe without Enryu, I'm not 100% sure on that either. And that's the whole thing about this. That's how things are going to flow more than likely. So we end up pushing through with the story, and Bam ends up going into Dija's castle, and we're going to stop it right there for this episode. I know that I'm not yet finished with Bam's story, but we're leaving it over there because this year will now relate into Karaka and Rachel's part in this whole mess. And trust me, they have a lot more to play with it, along with the fact that they have brought White with them. And there's a whole lot to do with his story and Heljo in the next one. So catch you all then. Have a good day.